Spring training is here, and we're going to tell you the biggest storylines we're keeping track of leading up to opening day. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Tony Gonzalez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. We're two lifelong Mariners fans who've been covering the team for over half a decade, and today we're going to go through all of the biggest spring training storylines for the Mariners, from what's happening on the backfields to the World Baseball Classic, all that good stuff. I got a list here, Colby. I got a bunch of storylines that I'm going to be keeping track of that I'll go through over the course of this show, and you can let me know if you got any as well, especially if I don't mention them. But let's start here with a very obvious one that we've talked about all off season long. Colt Emerson, one of the best prospects in baseball, according to pretty much every outlet there is that tracks prospects. He's going to get an opportunity to make this club. I don't know if it's as great as it was, 10 days ago before the Mariners acquired Donovan, but I do think there is a real opportunity here for Colt Emerson to break camp with the major league team. And he's going to get plenty of opportunity to play in spring training. And there's also the, added element of intrigue of, what does his presence on the roster, being another left-handed hitting infielder, mean for the rest of the roster, mean for guys like Luke Raley and maybe Dom Canzone and all that, like we've talked about over the last couple of weeks. But, what I'm most interested to see here, of course, is what does he look like when he faces real major league pitching? That's going to happen at some point over the course of the spring. He's also going to face, A-level pitching, AA level pitching. But once he actually faces maybe he faces Yoshinobu Yamamoto or something like that, at some point this spring. Like, what does he look like in those situations?
Yeah, Emerson's probably the biggest storyline of the entire camp. Obviously, the Mariners were at least setting it up until about a week ago that Emerson was going to have a real shot to make the opening day roster and be the opening day third baseman and all that, and he still might. But obviously, since we kind of last heard them throwing that idea around, they acquired Donovan. And we've talked a little bit about, Donovan, Young, and Emerson, how all three of them on the roster is kind of a tough fit, particularly because they're all left-handed. And obviously, Donovan's going to play every day. And the two young guys need to play every day, whether that's in Tacoma or Seattle. There's no reason to have them on the bench. So, is it possible Emerson can still make the opening day roster? Sure. I think he can earn it and he can, force the Mariners' hand more or less at the expense of Cole Young, probably, because again, Cole needs to play every day. And if it's not going to be here in Seattle, it needs to be down in Tacoma. So yeah, Emerson's the #1 storyline. It'll be the first time most of us get eyes on him. I guess he had a couple at bats last spring training too, but I know a lot of people don't watch Arkansas Traveler games, on MILB TV or anything like that. So it'll be your first, extended look at him. I think he's going to get a lot of playing time. It's interesting, the Mariners have a lot of participants in the WBC, not that many infielders. I mean, I guess unless Colt Emerson, they're going to hand him a first base glove and be like, we need you to get at bats. You're going to play first for Naylor today. That's a possibility, but yeah, it's Emerson's the #1 storyline across the entire camp. And, it's not too dissimilar from when Jared Kelenic first arrived and when Julio first arrived. Like a lot of guys, all eyes were on them, and the first time they had a real shot to break the opening day roster, they were kind of the biggest storylines in their respective spring trainings, and Emerson's certainly going to follow suit there. So whether or not he makes it, I don't know, but he's going to have an opportunity to force the Mariners' hand. And if I had to guess, I would think the Mariners would prefer that he did. That's just a hunch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's almost certainly it is him versus Cole Young for, a roster spot. And that's going to be a really interesting battle. And again, remember, it's not just about the numbers. You can't just look at spring training stats and decide that's who's going to win the job. So it'll be really interesting. Those are two of the biggest storylines, those two players, Cole Young and Colt Emerson, but Emerson's #1 just because he's this super hype prospect that none of us have really seen in an extended look, and we're going to get some eyes on him really the entire spring. He's going to be in big league camp for at least the first 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 weeks of spring training. So we'll see how he does. But that's the number one storyline by far.
Yeah, it's less about the stats. It's more just about how he looks. And again, he might, get a look at, Yoshinobu Yamamoto getting a tune-up or Logan Webb getting a tune-up, but he's also going to run into, a lot of major league relievers getting ready for the season and, some other like back-end starters and guys like that. So how does he look against those guys? So that'll be pretty interesting. But yeah, Cole Young was also a separate storyline that I had on here because I kind of just assumed that he's going to make this roster, but maybe that's not the case.
I don't see how you have both of those guys on the roster at the same time because Donovan is going to play. Like there's no reason he's not going to play. Obviously Randy's in left. I suppose they want Donovan to start the year as the primary right fielder. They could all three be on the roster. But Seattle has so many, right field options and those guys need to play too. So the easiest path would be for Young or Emerson to go down and Donovan plays either second or third until that guy is ready. And again, the benefit is that you can do that, send one of the guys down, and you can kind of let your right field situation play out where it's like, okay, Victor and Luke, you guys kind of battle it out. We'll see where we're at in a month. And if we have to make a change, then maybe we do call up Cole Young and Donovan just moves to the outfield primarily or maybe you do it in a month and Emerson's the one who's struggling. So you just call up Cole Young, send Emerson down and shift Donovan over to third. So yeah, I just have a hard time imagining both of those guys making the opening day roster, unless there's some kind of injury, which is certainly possible, happens. But yeah, it's just a really clunky fit unless they're, giving up on Luke Raley and they're just looking at Robles as nothing but a pure fourth outfielder. I just don't see a way that they all three make the roster, and obviously Donovan's making the roster. He's your leadoff hitter. So yeah, Young is interesting. Was hurt last spring, really didn't get to see him all that much. We don't know how that impacted him on the field because, defensively, he's way better than he showed last year in the majors, particularly the arm strength. And so we'll see how he's feeling heading into the spring and if there's improvement there or not. But yeah, again, he's in a battle. I really think he's in a fight for his, opening day roster spot. He's battling to try and win that. And he probably has to beat out Colt Emerson, who kind of already beat him out as the shortstop of the future, in that regard. So yeah, Cole Young's really fascinating. I really like the player a lot. It's just a little bit of a squeeze here at the start of the year to make the roster. And I think it's either him or Emerson. And right now, as things stand, I would give the edge to Young because he's a major leaguer. He's done it. He's had some success at the big league level. And, all the reasons we talked about, like, hey, you can put Emerson down in AAA and he can play every day and he can also get a ton of reps at third base, and so can Donovan because he hasn't played a ton of third base either. And those guys can just play third and you reevaluate in a month. And again, if Young's struggling, you send him down, you call up Emerson, you shift Donovan to second where he's got a ton of experience playing second. So yeah, I think Young has the inside track right now, but these two guys are going to be battling for the same spot again. It does not make any sense for either one of them to try and fill the Leo Rivas role. That's not a good use of time of time really for either of these guys because Cole Young's 22 and Emerson's 20. They need to play every day, and if you can't do that at the big league level, they need to go to AAA. So we'll see which one of them ultimately ends up down with the Rainiers.
All right, we will go over more storylines in just a moment, but first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by TurboTax. Look, y'all, tax season doesn't have to take over your life, all right? Because this year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. All you have to do is file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen for all things Mariners. And also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Mariners with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonmariners.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. And in the show notes, you will also find a link to our Mariners fan survey that we're currently holding. Again, we will react to the results of that survey in a few weeks' time, sometime after the start of March. And we already have more participants in just a handful of days of having this survey up than we did all of last year when we did this a year ago. So that's really cool. So appreciate you guys participating. If you haven't already, again, you can hit the link in the description of this episode. We'd love to hear from you. And again, we're just trying to, gauge where you're at with the club on some things, some very simple things. You can also make a couple predictions on there. And you don't have to sign up for anything. You literally you click the link, you press a couple buttons, you're done. That's it. That's all you have to do to participate. So again, if you participated already, really appreciate it. If you haven't already, we'd greatly appreciate it. So storylines, Colby, you got one?
No, you do it. Sure. I mean, not a super exciting list of NRIs. The really fun bullpen arms are on the 40-man, but there were a couple that stand out, mostly because, they're top prospects. And the two that jump out right away are Kade Anderson and Ryan Sloan. The Mariners have, pretty, unapologetically kind of thrown out the idea that, it's possible Ryan Sloan is big league ready this year. And well, I think that's a bit ridiculous, a bit far-fetched. It's not something that the Mariners typically do when they they don't just say things to say things about their prospects necessarily. So how are they going to manage his workload? Because last year it was 82 innings, I believe. Kade Anderson getting ready to throw his first pitch of professional baseball, kind of. In the Cactus League, whenever he makes his debut there. He had 139 innings, I believe it was last year. So what is his workload going to be? More importantly, how are these guys going to look against the big league competition they get to face, assuming they both do? I mean, I don't think they'd be up in big league camp if they weren't going to, get a start or, a multi-inning opportunity early enough in the game that they will face some big league hitters. And we'll see how they look. So I think, what does Ryan Sloan look like, but especially what does Kade Anderson look like? And where is Kade Anderson going to start the year? Because I think that will tell us whether or not the Mariners think he has a real shot to, impact the major league roster this year. I think AA is a reasonable, if he starts at AA, I think that's kind of the Mariners signaling, we think this guy can help us at some point this year. If it's high A, maybe he's only there for a short time, and the conversation changes. But yeah, I'd be really surprised if it wasn't at least Everett for Anderson, and I'm sure that Sloan also has a shot to start the year in AA, but he'll probably also start the year in Everett. But how do these two guys look? Is this? We know the Mariners are going to have to make some tough decisions about their pitchers coming up. Logan is coming up on free agency. Kirby is kind of hitting that max. Max tipping point of we can get the most for him if we trade him right now. If we don't think we can get an extension done, obviously Luis is 1 year closer to the end of his contract. So these two guys, they're really important, especially since the Mariners traded Senja. How do they look in big league camp? Do they stay healthy? Can they get big league hitters out? How does the stuff play against big league competition? I think watching those two guys is going to be a lot of fun.
Next on my list, because I also had Anderson and Sloan, and I'm really interested to see both of those guys. The World Baseball Classic, though, so the Mariners have 16 guys. Now, quite a few of those are prospects and non-roster invitees.
Sure.
But they have 16 guys in total that are going to the WBC. And this is kind of twofold, right? Because it's on one hand, it's the guys that are going to the World Baseball Classic. Like, what does this mean for, they're ramping up for the season and all that. Staying healthy is obviously the biggest key to that. And then on the other end of that, it's the opportunities that opens up in camp while they're gone for other guys. So obviously Cal Raleigh's not, he's going to be in the WBC. He's probably going to make a deep run in the WBC as well with Team USA. That team is just stacked. Gabe Speier as well. He's going to be on Team USA. Julio should be probably making a deep run with the Dominican Republic. Andres Munoz could make a fairly deep run, as well as Randy Arozarena for Team Mexico, Josh Naylor on Team Canada. So these guys, they're going to be gone for a little while. And so that should open up some opportunities. Who do you think maybe benefits the most from those guys' absence?
Right off the bat, Kisner and Pareda, those two guys are going to catch a majority of the starts, I should say. Probably, by the time Cal gets back, they'll be deep enough that those guys should be catching 6-7 innings a game, and we'll see how it goes. But Pareda,
you did.
Whatever. It's not even a thing anymore. But yeah, Pareda and Kisner, they're going to get a lot of at-bats. They're going to get to catch a lot of different arms, and we're going to get to see their defense, what it looks like. And, I think we'll see the challenge system also. I know we're going to see it during the regular season. I'm pretty sure we'll see it. So we'll kind of see how they handle that and all that. But yeah, it'll be a nice, opportunity for those two guys. Kisner certainly has the inside track on winning that job since Pareda has an option left. But he very well could take that job from Kisner. They only gave him $1 million. So they're very clearly not, married to the idea that he is going to be the backup catcher all year. So we'll see how it goes. But those two guys certainly, like we said, it should get a lot of at-bats for Luke Raley and Victor Robles and Dom Canzone, but those two guys in particular, because Julio and Randy are out, so they'll probably get, a majority of the look in center field and left field. Obviously, Dominic Canzone will factor in as well. And those three guys, especially Canzone and Raley, they may or may not be competing for one roster spot. Because obviously Raley doesn't have options left. Canzone does, so they could send Canzone down. We've talked about this, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's the backup catchers. It's Victor, who needs to play a lot, and we need to see what version of Victor Robles we're going to get. Not that we can really tell all that much. And it would be nice for Raley to have a good spring. Doesn't necessarily have to have, like a heat, a 500 batting average or anything, but is he making good swing decisions? Is he seeing the ball well? Is he hitting the ball hard? Because again, Luke Raley, a healthy Luke Raley, is a difference maker for this lineup. It pushes guys further down and it makes it 7-8, guys deep instead of what it currently is. So I think those are the big names. Bullpen wise, with Speier out, obviously the pile arms, bullpen guys always get opportunities, whether there's a WBC or not. There's a lot of innings you have to cover, and the Mariners aren't going to want to push anybody. So, the Alex Hoppies and the Robinson Ortizes, they were going to be throwing a lot of innings or, good amount of games, whether Munoz and Speier were here or not. But obviously a couple more opportunities for each of them now. And obviously Ortiz is kind of the third lefty in the org right now. And so he would probably be the first guy called up if something happened. And Hoppy is certainly a guy the Mariners really like. They traded for him, and they gave up, I don't want to say they gave up a lot, but they gave up notable prospect to get him here and instead of risking losing him in the Rule 5. So yeah, Hoppy's probably those two guys are probably the ones that have the most opportunity to improve their stock. First base, there's really not anything behind Naylor. So nothing really to help there. And then, somebody whose stock might be helped by the WBC, but in a kind of indirect way, Dane Dunning, who's pitching for Korea. That was surprising. And, Rob Refsnyder's not playing for Korea. I kind of didn't, whatever. So Dunning pitches well in the WBC. Maybe he comes back into camp and there's some interest there. And we know the Mariners need some early season rotation depth, and Dunning, we don't know what his opt-out is. We don't know when it is. We don't know what the roster bonus is, but maybe there's an opportunity for him to make the club as kind of the eighth guy and the long relief guy to keep him around if he throws well in the WBC. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's always a nice little wrinkle every 3 years. We kind of have to do this whole song and dance about like, is this the year that, somebody gets hurt or somebody pops, or who takes advantage of those opportunities? So the WBC, both in terms of like the actual tournament and how it impacts your team, kind of a fun little wrinkle we get every couple of years.
Thankfully, none of the starting pitchers are participating in the WBC. Yeah. Don't want to deal with another Drew Smiley situation. Thank you very much.
I'm already worried enough as it is about Munoz and Speier and Bizzardo, by the way.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about the position players because they could get hurt doing the same thing, in a spring training game. Whereas you're asking pitchers to throw, potentially high leverage innings in March. It's a lot.
Should also throw Casey Legumina as a guy who might have something to prove spring.
Yeah,
as a guy who's out of options.
Yeah, so I had the pile arms on my list here, and you kind of touched on them already. But yeah, I mean, there's 2 spots up for grabs in the bullpen, seemingly, because I think Carlos Vargas is locked in, and then obviously there's the 5 main guys as long as they stay healthy. I assume that one of those spots though is going to go to Emerson Hancock. So to me, it really is only just one spot. So is that Casey Legumina? I kind of feel like he probably gets the first crack at it just because he doesn't have a minor league option remaining. But like you mentioned, it's Hoppy, it's Ortiz, it's maybe even someone like Cole Wilcox, who we kind of view as more in the starting pitching depth mix rather than the bullpen. But maybe it's someone like him. Maybe they have to keep Cooper Criswell in the bullpen in order to just keep him in the organization, though. But there's going to be a lot of names in the mix there for that final bullpen spot. Again, I kind of feel like Hancock's going to get a spot to start the year, but we'll see. Maybe someone overtakes them, or maybe they feel, especially now with the Logan Evans injury, that Hancock should probably stay stretched out as starting depth. So
maybe
we'll see.
Also keep in mind Hancock has an option left.
Exactly. So that's what I mean is like you keep them stretched out and you put them in Tacoma and just have them.
I don't think they're going to do that though. I think they really tinkered with the arm slot. It kept getting lower and lower and lower as the season progressed. Yeah. And by the end of the year, he was slinging it, like a true side armor. I mean, also at the end of the year, he couldn't throw a strike to save his life, but we'll chalk that up to playoff nerves and all that. But, the pile arms are always interesting. This group is more interesting because it's not like, guys who have been around the block 3 or 4 times. You're just like, yeah, maybe we could get one last out. Like, no, it's young, controllable, guys who have really made their major league debut yet, or if they have, it's been for like 2 or 3 innings. It's Hoppy, it's Ortiz, it's Lutos, it's Wilcox. And we'll see if Wilcox is a starter or reliever. I assume starter, but we'll see. Yeah. There are some interesting pile arms, and there is a legitimate competition. And again, because half, I guess, of the Mariners locked in bullpen is going to be at the WBC for we don't know how long, but they play on 3 pretty good teams: Venezuela, the Dominican, and Team USA. Like those, all 3 teams are capable of making a run, and they could be without those guys for most of camp. The pile arms are going to get lots of opportunities to kind of stake their claim, and you have to throw Casey Legumina on the pile arm list as well, even though he's more established than the other ones, but he's fighting for those jobs, and they're all going to get lots of opportunities this spring.
And you are listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone, and on there we talk the soon-to-be World Series champion Seattle Mariners, the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, and all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/Control the Zone. Link in the description of this episode. We're going over the biggest Mariners spring training storylines today. I got another one here. How about Brendan Donovan playing third base? He's played it a bit in his career, but it's like what I think sub 300 innings off the top of my head. I don't have it right in front of me, but it's around that mark, around 300 innings in his entire career at third base. So he's played it a little bit, but not a ton. What does that look like? I haven't really seen him play third base with my own eyes much. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. I think he'll handle it just fine. I just want to actually see it.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of data, so it's tough to say how good he'll be there. We have a ton of data at second base that says he's above average to plus there. That's definitely the position he's best at. He's a better infielder than he is an outfielder, but he can play all over the place. But yeah, I think right now, with about almost 6 weeks to the day of opening day, I guess 6 weeks plus 2 days away from opening day now. It looks like Donovan's going to be the third baseman, and that'll be interesting. I'm sure he can handle it. I don't expect it to be a disaster, but they're just, as we know with anything, you can be great, but when you're asked to do something a little bit different than you're used to, it can take a minute or two to kind of adapt and overcome that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Where Donovan ultimately ends up playing is kind of a storyline to camp, but I think it is connected to the very first storyline we talked about. It's Colt Emerson, it's Cole Young. That's going to dictate where Donovan plays more than anything, but I do think it'll probably end up being third base, at least to start the year, get him a lot of reps, get him a lot of innings over there. And then if you have to move him to second base, that's fine. He's already really good over there.
Yeah. How about some new pitches? Anyone got new pitches? Like, did Luis Castillo finally reinvent himself a little bit during the offseason? No. Probably not. Probably not.
Luis does what he does, and he's going to have a 3.5 ERA, and people are going to be like, he sucks, and it's going to be 180 innings, 2.5 wins, 3.65 ERA, 8.5 K per nine, like 3 base on ball per nine, and be like, this guy kind of stinks, doesn't he? He's awful. And it's like, sure.
Yeah, he's pretty damn good.
That's just velocity is going to be down at the beginning of the year. People are going to be like, oh, his arm finally fell off. And then July, August, he'll be throwing 90 with movement, and you'll be like, oh, well, I'm still a little concerned, but
the velo will still dip a little bit, because that's just the trend that's happened the last couple of years with Luis. But overall, like, it'll be fine.
He'll be very, very good at home. He'll have some rough outings on the road. The fastball will continue to generate whiffs just because it's a really good pitch. No matter what the velo is, it continues to be a good pitch. Like, we know who Luis is, and I really doubt Luis is at a point in his career where he's going to change anything. We know George Kirby's toyed around with a cutter. He's going to introduce that this year. He said at FanFest, and there's another. He changed his grip on the slider or something like that. We know Kirby's a tinkerer. Yeah. Tinkerer. Yeah. Yeah. So is Logan, haven't heard anything about new pitch from Logan. That's kind of the first week storylines always, it's remember Munoz's kick change last year and how that was just all anybody could talk about.
Last year, Emerson Hancock came into camp with 3 new pitches. Yeah.
None of them good. It's just keep that in mind. Just because I have a new pitch, that doesn't mean it's a good one or that it'll ever.
And that doesn't mean that we're going to actually see it in game. So yeah.
No, and what about kind of an addendum to this? What about new pitches we saw last year? Do we see them more this year? Munoz threw that kick change a little bit more and more throughout the year. Brash threw a kick change, throughout the year. Like, do we see that pitch more often now that they've played with it a little bit? And obviously, they're a little more comfortable with it and they brought it into games and they've had some success with it. Maybe they do. And so we'll see what happens. But the Mariners rotation is full of guys who like to tinker, except for Luis Castillo, who's thrown the same exact thing from the same exact arm angle.
I would love it if Luis was like, you know what? I've reinvented my changeup.
Yeah, that'd be great. Or he's somehow thrown from that low 3/4 arm slot and he just drops like a 12-6 curveball out of nowhere. You're like, wait, what? Or just even a sweeper.
Definitely don't think that's happening.
No. But like a sweeper or something that's clearly different from the slider. I just don't think that's who Luis is. And if he's going to go out there and he's going to throw up mid-3 ERAs and give me 180 innings every year, I'm just fine with him doing whatever he wants to do. But yeah, new pitches is always kind of a storyline. We'll see what guys got going for him. Also, it's probably not. I mean, pitch mix is also a really important thing, but typically that's not something we hear a lot about. It's kind of something you have to notice as a trend more so than you get told this is what's going to happen. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, new pitches is always kind of a fun little story. It's honestly, the new pitch one is kind of the same as like best shape of their lives, only it's more fun.
Yeah. It's more nerdy.
Yeah. It feels more real too.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I got a couple of smaller ones on my list here to wrap up, but you got anything? Maybe you have the same ones that I have.
Probably. Best shape of your life. Who's coming in the best shape of their life?
Ooh.
That's always a fun one.
Ben Williamson was going to be my pick for that. I thought we were going to hear.
Did you see Cole Young taking hacks?
Yeah.
He looks a little thicker, doesn't he?
I thought we were going to hear so much about Ben Williamson and his reinvented swing and all that. Yeah, I thought that was going to be a huge thing.
Thank God.
Luke Raley feels like a pretty good candidate for this.
Sure.
Victor Robles.
I think Randy Arozarena is a candidate for. Like, Randy's always like in great shape, but it's a contract year for him. He's going to get one last bite at the apple. Like, yeah, I could see Randy coming in, just kind of, maybe not that Adolis Garcia build where you're just kind of like, that's, but certainly like maybe a little bit bigger, stronger. It's always tough because like you could say like Cole Young or Colt Emerson, but it's like those guys are 22. Like the way that they work, like they could just do a little bit something different and they come back like jacked out of your mind and you're like, what? So yeah, I mean the best shape of your life stuff. It's a joke. We don't really care, obviously, but it's always a thing. Always a thing with reporters and all that. It's so cliche that it's expected and it's become a meme, but it's still a funny meme. It's right up pitchers and catchers followed immediately by like they're in the best shape of their lives. Like they just go hand in hand.
Right. Yeah. So I have like, new additions potentially. We talked about this yesterday. Like I've heard that they're looking at relievers. We both heard that they're looking at relievers. At some point, does that happen? Do they make like their like this year's version of the Nick Vincent trade? You used that example on yesterday's show. So just kind of looking for that. I don't think they're going to add anything on the position player front unless if it's like someone with maybe an option that they just, kind of store away down in AAA. And then extensions, Cal signed his towards the end of spring last year. Do we finally get the Logan Gilbert extension?
Hopefully.
Yeah. I don't really know where they're at with that right now. And I don't know if the injury and just the elbow in general, just the state of the elbow, if that's had an impact on maybe how the Mariners feel and maybe what their offer ultimately is.
Yeah, I think, a big storyline is, or a big extension, I should say, could possibly be Colt Emerson. Because if you think you can buy a year free agency by being like, we'll put you on the opening day roster, you do it. And the Mariners haven't really done that. They tried with Kelenic and Kelenic didn't take it and whoops. I think they tried that also with Logan Gilbert and Gilbert didn't take it. And that probably ended up being a smart decision. So the Mariners really haven't locked in a very young guy really early in his career quite yet. Like before he made his debut, like obviously Julio was in his rookie year, but that was in August. So yeah, I think Emerson could be a guy and the Mariners, do they want to do deals like that? Absolutely. And if you're going to operate like they like to operate, which is kind of like we're broke, even though they're not, we're a small market team, even though they're not, you kind of have to do that with young guys. You have to get them locked in at a reasonable price. So Colt Emerson is a guy that I would watch, is possibly getting something done, but he's a first round pick. He got that signing bonus. He's not, the 18th rounder who got a $3,000 signing bonus. And now he's getting waived $25 million in his face. He's like, oh, I probably should take that. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think Emerson is a sneaky name to watch there for the extensions, but Logan's, the number one guy. And then I really doubt JP Crawford and Randy Arozarena, who are free agents. I just don't see them in the long-term plans for the Mariners.
Yeah, Emerson's the one to keep an eye on because maybe you buy out his RBers at the very least. Maybe you get an extra year of free agency bought out there, and you guarantee him a spot on the roster. If he signs it, maybe Brian Wu or Bryce Miller. Maybe something happens there. How about Gabe Speier? He's got 2 years left. What if they extended Gabe Speier?
Yeah, we talked about Matt Brash a little bit too.
Yeah,
but yeah, Speier. I kind of doubt it, but maybe certainly possible.
Munoz is starting to get towards the end of his extension. Maybe you extend his extension.
I don't think they're going to want to pay. The trouble is the Mariners don't pay relievers.
Yeah,
and so how much do they want to pay? Are they going to give Gabe Speier? He's got 2 years left. He's going to make I don't know.
Well, for Munoz
Munoz
because they're all club options.
Mm-hmm.
Would he be willing to give up another year or two of free agency if you guarantee those next 2 years?
Maybe. I don't know. Are you going to want to pay Munoz $10-12 million in 2030?
Yeah.
So yeah, the bullpen ones are always kind of interesting, but Gilbert's the priority. I do think he's the one that the Mariners will spend most of their time on. And, we do know that these conversations do happen with the Mariners during spring training. Cal Raleigh, obviously JP Crawford, and I imagine the conversation on who, they approached Julio during spring training about an extension. So this definitely is something they like to do this time of year, is to try and at least start these talks. And again, remember, it took them a month of Luis Castillo before they extended him, and the JP Crawford extension happened. So these things can get done pretty quick. So just keep that in mind. It is something to watch.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Once again, if you never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get ad-free audio, access to our members-only Discord, and more, all built for our most loyal fans. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.